The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. 3M Open, first look, research, and first crack at the PME Open DraftKings Listeners League. The link to the PME Open DraftKings Listeners League is in the description of this video and podcast, where it appears every single week. There's just under 7,000 spots like last week, over $100,000 of guaranteed money. And if you tweet at me saying, "Hey Pat, I'm a big fan of the show. I listen to every single show, every single week. I can't find the link anywhere, but I always listen." I don't fucking believe you. 'Cause I'm saying it right off the top, and it's the same goddamn spot every single fucking week. So that's where it is. If you miss out, you miss out. But hey, go reserve your spot right now. Remember to smash the like button to the video, give me your early lean in the comment section, and rate and review the podcast. We got so many new reviews, but I see the numbers of downloads, the numbers of listens, and the numbers of reviews, and they don't match up. So if you're listening to the audio version of this, please just scroll down to the bottom, hit 5 stars, and boom, be on your way. That is the best way you can support the Pat Mayo Experience. So please help out the show just a little bit. Also, all the stats I am providing today are from fantasynational.com. If you go to fantasynational.com/Mayo or just promo code Mayo, you get yourself 20% off. I've been working on tightening up these shows because who the hell wants to listen to like an hour and a half of me rambling on, being like, "Oh, it's this and oh, it's that." In full disclosure, I am filming this towards the back half of the third round of Memorial. Currently, Tony Finau, Jeff's guy, has a 3-stroke lead. We'll see where that ends up turning out. Even by the end of the show, who knows? If I decide to do some Showdown stuff, I'm going to pack it at the end so it doesn't, you don't want to hear about Showdown stuff if you're watching this on a Sunday or on a Monday. So there we go. I will have the Monday show with Jeff Feinberg for 3M. I'll have the DraftKings show. I believe I'll have a live chat this week. I'm not sure on that. Check back Monday to see how that goes. I'm thinking about having a welcome back to baseball show this week. There's going to be UFC this week. There's a lot going on. Also on Friday, I released the ultimate movie bracket for the 2000s. Please go vote in that. That's pinned to my Twitter page at the PME right now. And if you want a chance to get in on a draw for some Millionaire Maker tickets, I don't know this for sure, but every single week since golf has returned, DraftKings has given me 20 tickets to give away, and I've been doing that at noon on my Twitter page on Wednesday every single week. So I would expect to find that out there. If you're not following me, then you're probably not going to see it. But if you want to get into a draw for one of those Millionaire Maker tickets, check me out at the PME. Let's jump into it. 3M Open, 156-man field this time around, just like last year. First tournament ever at TPC Twin Cities last season. It had been a staple on the Champions Tour before that. I actually went to the course last year and checked out some of the action. It's a really nice venue. I played Hazeltine the day before. Hazeltine, a little bit nicer, not going to lie to you, but TPC Twin Cities, very nice in its own right. I described it last year without knowing really anything about the course as an easier version of the Honda Classic at PGA National. We all know PGA National is very tough, but there's water everywhere. There's water everywhere at this course too. So if you just veer off the beaten path just a little bit, you might be in a lot of trouble, but it's really easy to score. Eagles abound. Number 18, we had a big bet on Bryson last year, and Wolf made the eagle on 18 to beat Bryson and Morikawa at the very end. If we just go and look at everything right off the hop, we will see that par 71, 7,481 yards on bent grass, played pretty easily last year, and there's a direct correlation with the Rocket Mortgage, at least from what we saw this year to last year for the 3M. We'll look into that in a second once we jump over to Fantasy National. But that's basically it. It's going to be a full field. This is by far the weakest field since golf has returned. There's very few studs at the top. We got Dustin, Brooks, Tommy, Finau, Paul Casey, Bubba Watson. Nice to see Tommy Fleetwood back. I'm expecting him to play the WGC, to get in tune for the PGA Championship. There's also a few guys playing for the first time over in Europe this week in the British Masters, hosted by Lee Westwood. A lot of people thought Fleetwood was going to play in that, but he skipped it to come over stateside. I'll be curious to see if any of those guys end up making the move over. I have no idea where Stenson is. I have no idea where Adam Scott is. I'm guessing we're going to see them at the WGC just so they can get around underneath them before the PGA Championship. But they're not in Minneapolis this week. So that's like the top end of the field. The middle tier, it drops off here. Wolf's the defending champ. Then it's like Corey Connors, Minnesota University. I think he's a Golden Gopher. So maybe he went to Minnesota State. I don't know. EVR, Eric Van Rooyen, the South African, a lot of ties to Minnesota, just like Troy Merritt, who ended up finishing very well at this tournament last year. Todd Father, Redmond, English, Glover, Henley, Norlander, Ryan Moore, Alex Noren, Chesson Hadley, Luke Liss, Sam Burns, Fratelli, Griot, Will Gordon, Matthias Schwab, and Bernd Wiesberger are back in the field as well after missing the cut at Memorial. 2 Euros who had made their first start at Muirfield Village. They're going to roll it through. I would bet that Wiesberger is going to end up being a really good value again this week. Now that he has those rounds underneath him, maybe his game's just not where it needs to be. But again, he entered the week the number 29 player in the world. And when these odds open, wouldn't be stunned to see him at like 75 to 1, 80 to 1, just because people don't give a shit about Bernd Wiesberger. But hey, and he might miss the cut and shoot like +9 again. But he's still a good player, so he will likely be undervalued in the betting market at least. I don't know what the DraftKings price is obviously going to be. Let's take a gander over to fantasynational.com. and jump right into everything. Just have everything. Let's just sort by strokes gained total, just for the obviously the Memorial stats aren't in this yet because the Memorial hasn't concluded. But if we just sort by strokes gained, last 50 rounds, 2 months, and just see best tee to green players since the restart. That's all I want to see. So we got Henley, Glover, Norlander, DJ, that he's going to drop after this week, Connors, Redmond, Homa. Doc Redmond's really interesting because he lost over 6 strokes putting at Memorial. The ball striking was on point. I'm very curious to see where he opens at. I hope it's not the same sort of price that we got in Detroit. And because he missed the cut this week, we might get a 50. A 50 is a good number on Redmond this week. This could be a breakout spot for him, especially after we saw Wolf Morikawa go apeshit last year with ball striking. That's really what you want to do here. Let's see. Seifert's back in the field. He's been playing well. Griot, Straka, Casey. Casey's probably going to go down there. Although it was really just one bad hole for Paul Casey. Like, this kind of seems like a tailor-made course for him. I'd prefer it be on Bermuda for him, but he can't putt anywhere anyway, so what's the difference? And as we'll see once we kind of jump into this a little bit, that we go back and take a look at the leaderboard from last year, that it's a lot of no-putt guys at the top. Obviously, Bryson can putt a lot, but Wolf's not the greatest putter. Morikawa's not the greatest putter. Hadwin putted the lights out. But if we just sort by who's in the field this time around versus last time around, we can kind of get a glimpse here who kind of popped and who didn't. We have, Wyndham Clark came T5. So, yeah, obviously no putt. Sam Burns, T7. Scott Brown, T15. So we have some guys here in the field that can actually do pretty well. Let's jump to 2009 and just kind of take a deep look at the leaderboard from last year. So Wolf, Morikawa, Bryson, Hadwin, Ortiz, Clark, Sam Burns, Joey Garber. There we go. And there's a name you probably won't hear again. Great week ball striking for him, though. Lucas Glover, the glove. The glove's going to be a decent price this week, especially after coming off of a decent week at Memorial. Harmon, Merritt, Hideki. Then you got Fabian Gomez, Big Dick Vic, Danielson, Im, Berg, Svensson, Stephanie, Sloan, Brown, Piercy. That was everyone who was T22 or better, even CH3 lingering back here with Tony Finau. And Arjun Atwal, where the hell did Arjun Atwal pop up in the not too recent past? I think it was Heritage after getting into the field. No, it was Rocket Mortgage. Another guy played well here last year, played well at Rocket Mortgage. Let's take a look at this Rocket Mortgage. I kind of want to compare the leaderboards. So you have Wolf, Morikawa, Bryson, Hadwin, Ortiz, Clark. And if we skip over to the Rocket Mortgage, Bryson, Wolf, Kisner, Willett, Armour, Hadwin, Hatton, McNeely, Straka, Merritt. So you're seeing some decent crossover here. It's kind of stunning, to tell you the truth. You see Doc Redmond, Cam Champ, Mark Hubbard, Tom Lewis, all guys who pop up as well. I don't know what the direct correlation is. It might just be a weak field correlation, similar part of the country correlation. Rocket Mortgage is pretty easy. Obviously, 3M is a bit more challenging, but not significantly more challenging. That you can just really look to it and just even look at the strokes gained last year. Like Bryson gained 5.2 strokes putting, and his ball striking, especially on approach, was way behind Morikawa and Wolf, and they didn't even gain a stroke putting, and they came 1 and 2. Hadwin gained a bunch. Hadwin, when he plays well, tends to gain a bunch. But then you have Ortiz, didn't even gain a full stroke. Sam Burns didn't even gain a full stroke. Good week for Team No Putt. Not going to lie to you, if things stay on the same course as they did last year. Now, is that going to remain? I don't know. It's been 1 year at the course. We can see something completely different. I wouldn't really expect it, though. It's not that dissimilar of a time frame either. This was over, I believe, the 4th of July weekend in 2019. It's going to be 2 weeks later, so it's going to be hot. It's going to run really fast. Even last year, the glove, we're not getting a good price on if he was 7th here last year either. But you can see, just it's a lot of similar names that pop up from the 2020 Rocket Mortgage. When guys like Arjun Atwal are actually coming back through, Luke List, maybe Luke List, if he falters here down the stretch in round 4, we can jump back on old Luke. Christoph Ventura is another one. He's back in the field this week. He can't even bet him low Norwegian against Vic because Vic's not playing for the first time since the restart. So there are guys, if that's going to be a real crossover, but the one good thing about this tournament is my modeling from last year was actually this. I think this was the best model I built. So I have the 3M. I have worked next to it because it actually worked for once. I like to keep these notes. So I went 15% off the tee, 30 on approach, 10 on birdies or better gain because you're going to need to score, 5 on opportunities gain, which is just a more precise version of approach realistically. And let's just call it a more realistic version of ball striking. So opportunities gained is the fantasy national stat where you can load in birdie greens in regulation or green and fringe on or under regulation inside 20 feet. So that's a birdie attempt. That's an opportunity to score. So you got to still make your putt. Okay? Birdies are better gains after you make your putt. Par 4s, 15%. Par 5s, 10%. Par 3s, 200 to 225, 5%. Eagles gained, 5%, because you're going to be able to make some eagles at this course. And then par 4s, 450 to 500 yards at 5%. So let's load that up. And let's swing back over to see what's going on here. Let's look at the course conditions from last year. Let's look at the course breakdown from last year and see what they're telling us. Scoring relative to par, it was average in the first round, then easy the next 3 days. Green firmness was soft. I bet you it's a bit firmer this year solely because it's just so hot out. It was calm in Minneapolis last year. The rough was long, but you really have to go off the beaten path to find a lot of rough at this course. Generally, if you go off the fairway too much, you're in the water. But just walking around the course, it didn't seem like, you can't hit it over here. Too much rough. There's some spots, but nothing crazy. 72 to 7,400 yards. We look at the breakdown. We can see that hole number 6 is the par 5, almost a 2% eagle rate. Hole number 12, almost over a 3% eagle rate. And the closing hole, number 18, so the 3 par 5s, all not very eagleable, obviously, but if you have enough distance, you can get it there, or at least if you're hitting your long irons really well, you can do it. We can just see around the green basically didn't play a factor at all amongst the top 10 finishers. Putting did a little bit, but as you saw, it was either a lot of putting, and that's what got you there, or it was immaculate ball striking that got you to the very top of the leaderboard. And that's what I'm going to go with again this week. I don't want to take a guy who loses 5 strokes putting. That guy is not going to win. But if you can just be around average, just gain a little bit, like we saw, like 0.4, you have a chance to win this tournament if you're striking the ball well off the tee, and especially on your approaches. Most of the damage was done on par 5s. That's why I added eagles gained into this. And you can even see ball striking versus short game. This is one of the most pronounced I've seen. Now, again, maybe that's a 1-year outlier, and it had a lot to do with the field strength and the players that were actually in that field. We'll learn more over time, but there's only so much that you can go on as it goes down to it. You can see that 5 of the par 4s, are 450 to 500 yards, and another 4 are 400 to 450. What's the really short one? Let's see, 380, 391. They're not drivable, as you can see. Although if Bryson was in the field this year, maybe he could drive them. They're very easy to birdie, but not super easy to eagle. This is a fun tool that you can kind of use on here. The cut line last year was -2. That's probably going to be lower this year. I always get confused when I talk about golf that way. It's very confusing for everyone. But where it's top 65 in ties this year as opposed to top 70 in ties, as we've seen with the cut line in almost every tournament, especially the 156-person fields, even if it was like -4 or -5, I wouldn't be super stunned with the way that things are going so far this year. Driving accuracy, higher than tour average. Greens in regulation, higher than tour average. Scrambling percentage is lower than tour average, but where accuracy and greens in regulation are up, fewer people are actually scrambling. So that sample size is a bit misleading, just because there's not as many opportunities to scramble versus different courses. The single, 3 putts, not a whole lot of 3 putts at this course versus average. Average driving distance, super long compared to your average tour event. And then we saw last year 1 round of 61, 4 of 62, 1 of 63. So guys can go low down here. That's why, again, the birdie or better percentage, the eagle rate, that needs to be super high. So let's look. I've constructed this model that I've loaded in for just the restart only. So it's going to give you we'll look at it on a longer term as well. But, some guys, someone like Seamus Power, for example, has only played 4 rounds, and he played pretty well, to be perfectly honest with you. But, what's 4 rounds? It could be completely different. We'll get a better baseline. But Dustin, Henley, Redmond, Connors, Glover, Hadley, Norlander, Straka, Nick Taylor, Scott Stallings are your top 10 in terms of this modeling since the restart. Then you have Gordon, Homa, Burns, Mr. Eagle himself, Sam Burns, Mr. Burns, Uline, Hubba Hubbard, Chase Seaford, Sam Ryder, Bubba Watson, Christoph Ventura, ace. Then you got Paul Casey coming in at number 20, but he'll probably go down. Like I said, I think the long-term adjusted skill, if we just look at this for all records past 50 rounds, we might get a different result here. I'd bet you Paul Casey is going to come out at number 1, just because what I've tailor-made this model to tell me is give me Paul Casey or give me I bet you Corey Connors rates out really well too, because it's an ultimate ball striking type of thing when we go and look at it. And if I'm going to go off last year and what my initial lean was when we look at ball striking versus short game, especially this is a really big one right here, the lack of strokes gained around the green. And we can see it, like Wolf gained a bunch. I believe one of those came from, I can't remember if it was from the fringe or if it was from just slightly in the rough, his putt on 18 that went in for eagle. A lot of that could have been that one putt, but Morikawa loses, Hadwin loses, Garber loses, Glover loses, and they make up through it. Glover made it up through putting, but everyone else made it up through it for approach or just immaculate ball striking that I'm not too concerned. Like, I wouldn't want my guy to lose 3 strokes around the green. Don't get me wrong. You just want to kind of tread water, be around even, a lot like putting. You don't want to be a huge negative, but at the same time, I don't think it's the most essential thing in the world. The internet running slow right now at the old office for Pat Mayo. I guess when I'm linking in different things, and here we go. Let's see. Past 50 rounds overall that players have played, not just since the restart, overall. Paul Casey, Corey Connors, 1-2, obviously. There we go. Doc Redmond, Brooks, EVR, Finau, Percy. How did Cam Percy, how has he finished? I feel like he misses the cut on the number every single week because I'm such a sucker and I take him every single week. He's a bad putter, but not as bad on bent as anywhere else. He plays well in average conditions. That's always nice to see, and calm conditions, so that could set up well for him. Missed the cut at Rocket Mortgage, great on approach. Missed the cut at Travelers, great on approach. Guy can't drive the ball for shit. I don't know what happened to him. He used to be like okay, but I don't know. He'll be like $6,300, I'd bet. DJ, I'm curious to see the overall number on DJ as it comes through. English continues to play well. Glover continues to play well. Who else? Tommy. That's no shocker to see him up there. Griot. When I talked about strokes gained around the green, these were 2 players that I wanted to hit at because they both suck around the greens. That's more or less why. I can't believe Griot still gains strokes on bent. That blows my mind. He hasn't gained strokes since the Farmers, and that was he missed the cut, and at Farmers only 1 round is weighted. So he gained 0.4 at the South course at Torrey Pines before missing the cut. Chances are he probably missed a bunch of putts at the North course that wasn't weighted. So Sony's the actual last time that he lost or gained strokes putting over a full tournament. So not great there, Emiliano. But you can see the around the green game is just as bad, and that could be somewhat mitigated this week. We know Corey Connors is a horrendous around the green player as well. Maybe that can be somewhat mitigated for him. The problem with Connors is that he's going to be like not a favorite in this field, but I could see him being like the 8th most expensive guy on DraftKings. Maybe the Redmonds and that of the world. You see, Hadley's another one who sucks around the green. The ball striking is usually pretty on point. Was bad at Rocket Mortgage. That does not inspire a ton of confidence. But you can see that he's never really all that good around the greens. Historically, very poor around the greens. And he seems to be getting worse as we look at his baseline. Past 162, past 20, past 10, past 5. Worse. Getting better off the tee, though. So that's nice. And with him, he's kind of not necessarily boom or bust with the putter, but he either loses 3, loses 2, gains 2, loses 1.3, gains 2.3. He's just one of those guys. He like this fight, I guess Farmers is still only 1 round, so that's really hard to wait. Same as RSM is only 3 rounds instead of 1, but it's either lose 2 or 3, gain 2 or 3. That's kind of his MO. But if you can catch him on the gain 2 or 3, it usually happens all at once, too. So he's actually a very good showdown player as it comes down to it. Danny Lee withdrew this week. I'm not sure why. Kokrak also withdrew this week. There was rumors that one of the caddies tested positive for COVID-19. There wasn't, I didn't see a release on who that was going to be. So I'd look more into it. Henley, I do really like this week. We might be able to catch him at a 45, 50. I'm going to look at the opening number. And since I'm up with my son at 5:30 every morning now, I'm there to catch the opening numbers. Anything 60 or over, I see at Henley. I don't expect that to be the number, but I'll be in on that. Bub Rub, whistles go woo woo. He's having a nice week at Memorial. I'm curious to see what he can do with this course. Him and Liz, when we dig into the in-tournament stats to see how everyone's actually doing so far this week, I'll be curious to see how they go. So we can see some of the guys, long-term adjusted form, I'm going to go back to the short-term adjusted form just a little bit. Go back to all records. 2 months just to get the restart back in. And then maybe we can look at some individuals who have been excelling in one thing or another. And you can, when you go to fantasynational.com/Mayo for that 20% discount, you can run where the fuck you want. I haven't been running mixed condition models on this course, but you can try that out too. People have had a lot of success with that. In the description of this video and podcast, I do have kind of a walkthrough. I might have to have Moose on too, because there is the sneak peek page, which I'm just not as comfortable using yet, but it's so fucking cool. If you really want to use it. Mike knows how to use this, so Mike designed it, so he should know how to use it a whole lot better. But it can give you like your model rank, your edit rank. This is in the default view right now where everyone ranks out almost the same, but you can just see it in a different way. It will load your graphs, load your recent results. You click on it, and it goes over to tournament history, and you can just kind of have that at your leisure if you want to, and switch back and forth between that. And it shows you a chart over time in the distance that you want to use. Like right now I have past 24 rounds, and it will save whatever model that you want to have. I think for this one, I just have nothing really weighted. I just have it showing the 5 main stats that I like to look at over time, and it's showing me tee to green right now, but I can just go in and check out ball striking if I wanted to, or just do the switch. Yeah, just do the switch over to ball striking just to see through lines over the past 24 rounds of, and it's just kind of fun to scroll through when you're not so much looking at the names and you're just kind of rolling in order. Be like, hey, who's trailing? Like Aaron Badley. I mean, if this was the first 5 holes on a Thursday, I assume he'd be the best player on tour. However, that's not the case. You can see his trend line is going down. Red means bad. Green means good, as always. And you can even see someone like Adam Schenk. He got it going really bad, but over the past 24 rounds, he's starting to get it back a little bit better now. And these are overall strokes gained. So it's not just like a spike in terms of that sort of charting. So you just want to see the guys going up a little bit. You can see that Wiesberger has kind of bottomed out a little bit. But again, when you go look at the recent results that have been weighted for him, WGC Mexico, China in November, the Open last July, he just doesn't have a whole lot of PGA starts to draw from. He did win 3 times on the European Tour last year. So that's someone that you kind of have to do a bit more of a deep dive on to really get a good sense. You see, Todd peaked and then he's kind of leveled out a little bit. That was at Travelers when he was striking the ball really well, then couldn't make a putt on Sunday. Brian Gay, he's kind of down in the dumps with this. Bryce Garnett is trending upwards. That's actually quite surprising to see. Bubba, the ball striking has actually been really good. Most of that is off the tee work, but still encouraging to see. So this is a cool view to do. I might start doing this kind of every single week as a part of my research. Corey Connors, boom, 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 up and up and up and up and up, because he's Mr. Ball Striking. Denny McCarthy, Mr. Putting, Mr. No Ball Striking, just continues to lose and lose and lose. Redmond peaked, and he's leveled off a little bit. Although the ball striking was okay over his 2 rounds this week, that has not been factored into this yet. Dustin gets the big bump from Travelers, and then that's going to go back down a little bit after Memorial. EVR went up, then down. I believe he's having an okay week. I'm not entirely sure what he's been up to overall, but this is just a cool, if you're more of a visual person and not someone who just likes looking at something that's a spreadsheet, I think this view is really cool, and it's a nice mix that you can put into it. Harris English is negative, positive, negative, positive. He seems to have good week, bad week, good week, bad week, at least since the restart. Norlander, he's been up. Swafford's been up. Swafford broke my heart so badly at Workday. I don't know. I probably will end up going back to him just because I know that he's going to be super cheap, but not the best thing in the world. So we're back here since the restart. Best players on approach in this field, again, before Memorial. I want to keep reiterating that. Glover, Redmond, Headley, Connors, the inventor of basketball, Matthew Naismith. At least the inventor of basketball, James Naismith's great-grandson, Matthew Naismith. Either way, he's 5th. Norlander, Homa, Griot, Percy, Hadley, Dustin. Anyone Sung you'll know? Like I said, he's an interesting case. He'd been playing well and then ended up missing the cut. Charles just can't get his driving going, but the approach has been like okay. He melted down on the back nine coming in at Memorial. So, tough course. It's hard to hold that against him. Chuck Hoffman, another guy who's been playing a little bit better too. We might just dig into him just a tad to see what he's been up to. Wawrinski as well had just been trending so well in the right direction. And then like he'd have a great ball striking round, then he couldn't make a putt. Birdies are better. This factors in putting. So Glover, Gordon, Finau, DJ. I'm curious to see if Finau ends up winning, whether or not he skips this tournament or not. But this should be a really good venue for him. Hadley, Wolf, Burns, Redmond, Koepka, Straka, Connors, Uline, and birdies are better. The guys hitting it the closest on approaches on average, giving themselves opportunity. No shocker, a lot of the same approach guys, as you can see. Although Todd, when he's hitting it, when he's striking his irons well, he's hitting it close. Same as Hardman, same as Kyle Stanley. What this tells me is that their misses are really bad, and they're just missing the green on a lot of approaches if the opportunities gain is not correlating all that well with approaches. Stanley is another one I want to look into a little bit harder. Oh, Ryan Brem in his 2 rounds, looking good. Thanks for showing up, and I'll take a look at old brother Seamus as well. Duff Daddy's been my boy the past 2 weeks. He missed it on the number 2 weeks ago and ended up sneaking through again this week. It's funny when I tweeted out that I had an 0 of 6 lineup. It's the first ever 0 of 6 lineup I've ever had. But I'm actually having like an okay week overall. Not a ton of 6 of 6s and no good ones. My main lineup was a 6 of 6, and it's now finally started to enter the cash midway through round 3. Although all my guys are done already, except for like Furyk at this point. But it's funny, like I used Wiesberger, he ended up missing the cut. I used Scrivener, he ended up missing the cut. But the rest of my 6K guys, I got right. My core 3 of Munoz, Furyk, and Duffner all made it through, and I had some Tyler Duncan along with that as well. It's the studs that really screwed me this week. Like I had Tiger, I had Brooks, I had Morikawa, I had Hovland. All those guys made the cup. They didn't play well. I had no Rahm, I had no Finau, I had no Cantlay. Those were guys that just I thought were going to be highly owned that I decided to ditch. Big mistake on my part. This happened to me, I want to say, not Travelers, because I had DJ and he won. Maybe the week before. Can't remember what week it was, but I had all my 6K guys and 7K guys were like really good. And even like Keegan made the cut. Steele made the cut for me. So my bottom end guys were really good this week. The top end guys, I just couldn't get on the right page. This happened to me a few weeks ago. And then last week, all my top end guys were fucking fantastic. And I couldn't get a 6K guy or a low 7K guy through the cut to save my life. So I feel like I'm around the right region here as it comes to constructing my lineups. I like to be an optimist about this, even though I ended up having a really good week last week after having a disastrous week the week before at Rocket Mortgage. But even at Rocket Mortgage, like I had Hatton, I just didn't have any Bryson. That was the week where I had the 6K guys get through, but Reed ended up missing the cut for me, which was really horrible. When you play a very tight core and you go all in and have like 60 to 70% of some guys, you're going to need to be perfect. But when the weeks that you are perfect, you're going to win a lot of money. And you're just not going to tread water even if you have a good week. You don't have the one lineup, making a run in some of these contests. You're going to have like 3, 4, or 5. And that's huge when it comes to actually trying to tackle the very top end. Like if you're playing in GPPs over and over and over again, it's those big spike weeks that are the most important. Sung Yul No, better putter on Poa. Let's see. Rocket Mortgage gained a bunch through approach. He's gained on approach even at Workday when he missed last week. Couldn't drive the ball for shit, which is a through line for Sung Yul No. And as we saw last week, I guess if you're going to hit it as far and the greens and regulation are super high here, as long as he's not driving it into the water, should be okay. Maybe you can get that putter back going a little bit. I guess back on Poa at Travelers, that really worked out. Poa bent mix at Rocket Mortgage, and kind of the same thing at Workday, didn't have it going. But he's been historically, I know he had the work stoppage to go back to the Korean Army, but I don't hate Sung Yul No here. Maybe I can get a nice price on him as low Asian, although Hideki's not in the field. That could be tougher. Chucky Hoffman, ball striking was back last week at Workday. Did he play the 3M last year? He missed the cut at 3M last year, but he was going through a funk, I feel, around that time. Yeah, it was a really bad run for him. He was 13th at Charles Schwab last year. Miscut, 51st, miscut, 77th. And then he just took some time off. He's been better as of late. Bad since the restart coming out of the gates, but gained on approach. It seems like he figured out the driver a little bit. And obviously the putting came through at Workday, but I don't know if he continues to strike his irons all right. That's the Chuck Hoffman that we know and we love. Never the greatest putter on bent, but I feel like some of his wins have come on bent. Let's see, Valero bent, 2 wins since 2012. I know he had a few before that, but geez. some decent ball striking weeks from old Chuck. He's sponsored by Monkey Knife Fights, so hopefully DraftKings can go sponsor someone soon. Richie Warinsky, bent grass, looking good. Rocket Mortgage came 21st, lost on approach, but gained 6.3 at Workday. T35, couldn't drive, couldn't putt. He's someone who just doesn't really seem to get it on the same page, but he's had 4 starts since the restart. He's made the cut every single time, even though he melted down on the weekend at Charles Schwab and kept the hot putter going. That was, again, on bent grass. So that maybe he can do this. I'm curious to see what his price, if he gets a price bump or not, because he's been playing really well. Kyle Stanley, I do find interesting. What was he last year here? He didn't play last year. He withdrew. He was in this, and then he withdrew before the tournament started last year. He's been kind of, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde here a little bit when it comes to the ball striking, but historically a very good ball striker. As you can see, long term, he's been really good. In the short term, he has not been as good, but a lot of that, has to do with losing a bit here. He had a bad Rocket Mortgage, but maybe he can get this back going. He's been really inconsistent round to round. When we go and look at him, let's go take a look at his 10 rounds here since the restart. Has this been loading? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, like he's had some disaster. Like this round at Rocket Mortgage, his first round was just an absolute fucking disaster. But other than that, gained in both, didn't lose on approach in this round, gained. It's just been this one stretch, round 4 at Travelers, round 1 at Rocket Mortgage. Something off the tee did not jive with him at Rocket Mortgage, but everywhere else he's been gaining off the tee. But he's a guy who's won a tournament losing strokes putting in the past. It's not inconceivable that, even if this is sort of the range that you want him to be in, obviously you need the off the tee and you need the approach to be a lot better than this. But it's encouraging to see that, minus 1.2, that's not the end of the world this week if it comes down to it. Now, I know that minus 1 is over 2 rounds, and it factored out prorated would be minus 2. That would not be good. But again, just be around field average. You can be okay. He's not the worst on bent. He's way worse on Bermuda. These are terrible putting splits overall for Kyle Stanley. He's just a sucker that I like to get behind. It's funny. He gains way more strokes in difficult conditions. Maybe that's something to look at. Maybe I'll parse that out a little bit. This wouldn't work in the short-term modeling because nothing has played super challenging outside of Memorial so far. But interesting to see. Old Sammy Burns, guy keeps popping up everywhere. If we look at that, who's been good at the long par 3s, again, take this with a grain of salt because there haven't been that many of the long par 3s. Like Jerry Kelly has 4 rounds worth of data. That would be a better one to really factor in long term if you wanted to look at it. A lot of this stuff comes into putting. So when you think about long par 3, short game putting, maybe that's not the best way. I've been working with Moose on 3 different tools that we're hoping to launch maybe early next year. This stuff takes a whole lot longer than you think. One of them is to parse out opportunities gained by specific range or greens in regulation by specific range. So something like this would be super interesting. 200 to 225. Yes, here are the best players on it, but are they chipping in? Are they making 45-foot putts? That's not really factored in. That's all factored into this. Can you parse out that data a little bit more to say, maybe this guy is missing a bunch of 20-foot putts on par 3s, 200 to 225, but he's hitting greens in regulation on them like at an 85% clip. Like, I'll take that guy rather than the guy that has to scramble and get it up and down on the par 3s at this length. Because I don't want guys to actually, I would want them to make a whole bunch of birdies, but these are harder holes that par is good on them, and just don't put yourself into difficult circumstances to make a big number. So that's one of the things I want to parse out. Just like greens and regulation or proximity on going for the green, either on short par 4s or second shots on par 5s, just to really navigate who is going for them, who is successful at going for those, who is trying to give themselves the best opportunity to make eagle on those. I think that's really valuable information to look for. It's just extremely difficult to parse. So hopefully we can get that figured out with our data very quickly and get that turned around sooner than we hope. Eagles so far. Arjun Atwal in his 4 rounds is making eagle everywhere. Sung-Yul No, inventor of basketball. Matthew Naismith, Lovemark, Cam Davis loves himself an eagle. Don't get it twisted. Burns long term has not been good at eagles since the restart, but if we did parse this out over a longer sample, he's been really good at them. So I think Burns is going to end up making the card this week. I bet you he's going to end up being pretty popular on DraftKings, but I'm okay with that. Doc just checks so many of the boxes here. This is going to be chalk city on Redmond. Even though he was, I don't know if the overall public will end up being on him, but anyone that runs a statistical model, that Doc Redmond's going to look super fantastic this week. Let's switch over into, let's see here, DraftKings Memorial. go look at the in-tournament stats so far. I should probably check in to see how people are doing on the course right now, if anything has super shifted. My best outcome tomorrow is if somehow Kevin Na can come inside the top 5. He's T11 right now as I check in. Oh, it's a 3-way tie for the lead. Rahm, Palmer, and Finau. I know Jeff's got Rahm and Finau. Oh, Willett has worked his way back into this as well. All right, here we go, Danny. Yeah, we bet him on the live show. I bet him at 66-1 with the each way. So if he wants to get himself going here a little bit, that's really nice. How did he do this? Oh, he's made 4 birdies on the back 9. I don't want to talk too much about this because it's going to be wildly out of date even by the time that I go through this. But the leaders are on hole 13 and are on 14 and 15 right now. Yeah, if Na, I have a top 10 on Na, top 5 on Na, and an outright on Na. The outright looks kind of crazy right now, but if -6 where Norlander, Day, and Willett are right now, it's only 4 strokes back. And if this course plays again just as difficult as it has today, then all of a sudden it's not going to be so crazy. Even a top 10, if a top 10 and top 5 come through for now, I actually end up having a winning week just because of the steel top 5 first round. And Munoz is T32 right now. If he can somehow work his way into the top 20, I believe that pays 8 or 12-1, which would be really nice. Or if Siwoo wants to shoot like 6 under, he did make 5 birdies in a row today and get himself inside the top 5. That would be fucking fantastic. And that'd be a nice win. He has 6 top 5 since his last win at the Players. And those each ways tend to pay. Like his each way this week pays 62.5-1. Like that'll tread you some water throughout time if he keeps spiking like that. He's actually been playing kind of well, which is kind of scary. Let's just look at round 3 to see what everyone's up to right now. Obviously, these stats are going to change over time. Who is the Rory, Palmer, Munoz? Of course, fucking Munoz loses another 2. Fuck Munoz, make some goddamn putts. Killing me out here. Day finally had the reverse day around where he's gaining strokes on approach. Day's kind of putting it together a little bit. Duncan continues to play well in the ball striking department. He's a threat. I mean, he won RSM. Billy Ho. He'd be a nice look last week. Again, there's Siwoo up there, 2.3, making some shots. Morikawa. I watched the Morikawa round this morning. That was not good. Duffner couldn't make a putt. Duffner's interesting next week, too, if he can figure out the driver a little bit. Answer finally gained on his approaches, which is nice to see, although 17 ate him up again today. Rory cannot chip. Who's gaining all the putts? I'm shocked to see Finau as another. I guess his round isn't concluded yet, but Todd Willett, again for the second straight day, is having a great putting round. Na saved himself with the putter. Fitz for the second straight day, losing strokes on approach, gaining them on the greens. Koepka gained a bunch of strokes. Apparently his knee still hurts, so he might be, although 3M sets up really well for him, I might go full fade on Brooks next week. I'm curious to see what ends up happening with him. Steele continues to make putts. Damon's making putts. Norlander, although the approach is back for him. Well, let's just look at all rounds and look at some of the guys that missed the cut. I think that's who we're really interested in here, just to see if there's any value on guys from next week. Just as a quick scroll, who gained ball striking wise? Justin Rose gained a bunch. Ball striking was a disaster around the green, but he is not playing next week. Paul Casey, 3.6 strokes gained ball striking, lost 4 around the greens. When you go bunk to bunk and then bunk to water, you're not going to be doing so hot. So Casey's definitely back in play next week, although there is a lot of water on that course too. I really wish Sergio was playing 3M. That seems like a perfect course for him. Lowry gained a bunch and ended up missing the cut because he couldn't make a fucking putt. Who else here? Nick Taylor gained a lot on approach. Taylor's been playing well since the restart. I might have to go with him. Emiliano, very shocking for Emiliano to lose that many strokes on approach. That is very atypical of him. So maybe he is a look again next week. Who else kind of pops out here? Hard to gain a bunch of strokes when you're like 85 over par. Neiman was 11th tee to green for the week and ended up missing the cut. So thanks for that. Redmond 3.1 in the ball striking department, lost 6 strokes putting. That's tough. It's tough go here. Hopefully Neiman ends up joining it next week to see what happens. Yeah, so there's not a whole lot of even guys that missed the cut. This is a smaller field, obviously. If we just look at approach, if anyone is going to go back in, Taylor has been the best. Neiman not playing. Redmond. Yeah, so there's not a ton, really. Grace gained. Is Grace playing this week? No, now I got to go take a gander to see if he's going to end up playing. Munoz and Showdown, by the way. We'll dig back into Showdown in a second. You can only look at the in-tournament stats for the tournament that you're on. So I have to change. I think it's on Memorial. We'll change back to 3M so I can see if Brendan Grace is playing or not. But that is interesting. Brendan Grace. 4.5 strokes. Sung Kang. Kang ended up making the cut. He's playing right now, but through all rounds, he's actually been okay on his approaches. VJ been pretty good on his approaches. I don't know if VJ is going to be back in the field or not. Let's see. Grace not playing. Is VJ playing? Vij from Fij. No, he is not up there. So don't worry about those guys. It's got to be Kang. Is Kang playing? No, Kang's not playing. No one is playing this fucking event. It's just the biggest scrub field of all time. ZJ is having a nice ball striking week overall. So is Xander. Obviously, a lot of that is round 1 putting. Morikawa has lost almost 6 strokes putting now. Where's Bub Rub? Bubba's having a week. Oh, am I going to bite the bullet on Bubba next week? Generally speaking, if it's not a course where Bubba has won before, especially like if he kind of fizzles out here in the final round, even comes like T21 or something like that, this ball striking is immaculate. Man, am I going to go with Bubba? Oh, that's such danger. Although he missed the 3 cuts in a row. And now he finally made the cut. He's playing well. The ball striking, and he was like he was +6 after round 1, and ended up really making a charge here on Friday and Saturday. So I'm very curious to see what happens to him. This could be a nice venue again for him. So if we just look at Showdown, basing it off the round 3 stats, I just want to kind of go through this. Now I'm off of the tournament I need to be on. So let's go back to Memorial. Let's just switch over to betting odds to update the page. And take a look at in-tournament stats. This would be easier to do if we had, if round 3 was finished for everyone, but obviously it's not as we look at this. Let's just sort by ball striking to see who's been good. Rory in Showdown tomorrow. I mean, that's nothing new, but Palmer is kind of primed to be. He could be looking good tomorrow. I wonder what his odds are right now versus these top-end guys. I mean, I don't expect Palmer to win, but it's interesting to see that he's striking the ball so well and not making a putt. Not making putts is kind of his thing. Oh, Rahm is now... Finau has dropped back. He bogeyed number 14. So Rahm's actually -120 to win right now. And then you got Ryan Palmer at 5-1 as I check in on this, as they're all through 14 and on 15. At the moment, Reeves in 4th, Willett, Day, and Norlander -6. Matt Wallace. Is it finally time for Matt Wallace? Probably not, although because it seems to be all putting from him. The best approach guys, best ball striking guys, Rory, Palmer, Duncan, Munoz, Watson, Scheffler. That's a lot for Munoz on approach, 3.1. That's a lot for Duncan just to gain almost 4 strokes ball striking wise. Oh, no, now Finau is, now Rahm's +110, Palmer. What is Wallace? Wallace is 66-1? I guess he's 6 strokes back. That's a lot. Yeah, probably too much of an ask for him. Although this each way with Danny Willett, I'm feeling a lot better about that now. I hope I played the each way. Now I have to go look at this as I'm in real time on doing this. Danny Willett. It was an each way. Come inside the top 5, Danny. 66-1. What will that end up paying me? What's that divided by 4? 15.25. All right, I'll take that. Take that. It'll be a nice savior to the week, just picking up some of this live shit along the way. Reed was really good in the ball strike. He played by himself, too, which is kind of weird. He will not be playing by himself again tomorrow. The Wolfman couldn't make a putt, but gained a bunch off the tee. The off-the-tee stuff tends to remain stickier week to week if they're generally good baseline guys, like Bubba, Scheffler, and Wolf are all really good drivers of the ball. So I think that's not an unsustainable number. But like to gain this much on approach day after day, like someone like Horschel could do it again. Any of these guys could do it again. But I find that, overachieving either around the green or putting tends to... It's just harder to replicate day after day after day, although 3.1 strokes on approach for Munoz seems relatively unsustainable for him, at least. Same as Rory up around 4, Palmer around 3. Like, had they have capitalized on the round, they could have went really low, but they didn't at this point in time. Otherwise, ball striking. Oh, EVR. Here we go. Let's bet EVR. That's my early lean for next week is EVR. Hopefully he fucks off tomorrow or has another one of these rounds where he can't chip. And like that's the one thing that we looked at that you don't really need to do at 3M is actually chip. So kind of like that a little bit. Rombo's playing well. Siwoo's just so up and down, you never know with him. He's kind of a good showdown play because he'll make like triple bogey, then 3 birdies in a row. This is the second straight week he's had a birdie streak at Murrayfield Village. Duffner could be a nice look tomorrow. Connors, although he did gain putting, the approach was on point. Day, you just don't see this from him all that often, although maybe he's turned himself a corner. And then you have to factor in all of the placement points towards the end as well. So we just sort by position. Some of these guys kind of out of the mix. This is going to be hard for Matt Wallace to sustain gaining almost 4 strokes putting. Same with Patrick Rogers. Although this is the second time this week he's gained over 2 strokes putting in a round. I need him to make the run. I hope he does repeat this, but he tends to be a very streaky putter, so maybe that's a good thing. Spieth's been pretty good with his irons this week, although you'll notice that he can't drive the ball all that well. Woodland is kind of falling back a little bit in that department, although he can kind of flip it around. This is just a bad round for Woodland. Maybe he can regain it. Right now he's through 14 holes. He's having a bad day. That if he can get in around -2, -3, he's someone who could shoot -4, -5 at this course, probably won't win, but that's great for Showdown and will get you some of those placement points. With Mackenzie Hughes, I can't believe he actually gained on approach today, but he's putt, ride or die. That's a decent guy for Showdown if you get him right, and he's a horrendous guy for Showdown if you can get him wrong. Chinese bad boy, Xingzu Zhang, is -1 going into tomorrow. He's a lot like Siwoo in the fact that he just trades birdies for bogeys, but he has no problem scoring by any means. Bub Rub, get this guy a putter, and all of a sudden he's looking a lot better in that department. You know that any of the 4 par 5s are in play for him for eagle, so that's always nice to have. Big Dick Vic had a really bad round. It was all putter yesterday as well, so maybe he's a fade, even though you might look at him and say he's just so weird that he could get it going really quickly. That sustainability-wise, that's tough day to day. I want to take a look at Furyk, who had been playing well. He's just been a disaster today. Poor Furyk. He's 6 over on his round. Not great. Anyway, that is the first look for the 3M Open. If you want to take a look into the customizable stats at fantasynational.com, you can do that at fantasynational.com/Mayo. Listener League link in the description of this video and podcast. We can't actually post the link in the video. That's why it takes you through to the podcast. If you end up doing that and you're normally a video watcher and you go there to get it, hit play right away. Even if you don't listen to the audio podcast, it gets me a download, and that would be very much appreciated. Just like the ratings and review, stuff like this goes a long way to really helping out the Pat Mayo experience. The more you can help out, the more we keep this free of charge to everyone, and we might be able to even expand coverage in the not too distant future as well. That you might not even get me. Maybe I can hire someone else to do shows on other sports like baseball or basketball, because they're coming back now too. And people seem to be game for anything these days. The MMA show is doing off the charts. If you're watching this right away, we have MMA every single week. We had a really bad card for the Wednesday night card, but viewers of the Pat Mayo Experience and the Dogger Pass podcast for UFC 251 won over $700,000 on that card. Of the 19 people that split the Millionaire Maker, 4 of them, at least 4 of them that we heard from, were viewers of the Pat Mayo Experience. So the UFC show continues to print, so I'd recommend going to check that out and vote in the comedy movie bracket. I released running back rankings on Saturday as well. The top 200 show I have out for fantasy football. We're doing a lot right now. Hopefully we can bring you more fun movie stuff and Cuss Corner as well, but we're sticking to golf. I will be back on Monday with Jeff Feinberg, and remember to smash the like button and give me your early lean in the comment section. Mine's going to be EVR right now, and for fuck's sake, Bubba Watson and Russell Henley. Those are my 3 core guys right now before I do more research, see how the results of the Memorial go. Remind me of that, by the way, if I start being like, I don't like this guy. Why did I like this guy to begin with? On paper, these are the guys that I like right now, and maybe I'll eat the chalk on them if they end up becoming Redmond as well. We'll see how popular he ends up getting. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope your bets and your DraftKings lineup come through for you at Memorial, or if you're watching this afterwards, did come through for you at Memorial. My column will be up on dknation.com on Monday. We'll check all that out. Got a ton for you, all right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!